Ever get that feeling like you're just living on the planet, not really a part of it?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, today's deep dive is going to make that feeling even more intense.
Oh,
We're exploring the concept of the world as a living system, and the sources you brought take us deep into how we fit into all of that.
that sounds pretty profound.
It is. It really is. So to kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your expertise on this topic?
Sure. So my background is in ecology and systems thinking. And for years now, I have been fascinated by how everything in nature is interconnected.
And it's easy to feel disconnected, right? Especially in our modern world.
Absolutely. We spend so much time indoors staring at screens. It's easy to forget that we're part of this incredible, living, breathing entity.
Yeah, you're right. And that's what's so cool about this deep dive. It really pulls you back into that awareness. Your source material, the Exploring the Living World podcast episode, does a great job of emphasizing the processes that are always happening around us, not just the forests and oceans, but the way they're constantly changing and interacting.
It's all about seeing the dynamic interplay, not just the static snapshots.
Exactly. So let's unpack this living system idea a bit more. What does it actually mean to view the world as a living system?
Well, it's about understanding that even things that seem inanimate, like rocks, are part of these dynamic processes. Over millions of years, rocks erode, they transform, become part of the soil, which then nourishes plants and so on. It's all a web of relationships.
So it's not just a collection of separate parts?
No, not at all. It's more like a giant, intricate web, a complex machine with millions of moving parts, all working together to maintain this delicate balance. And this is where systems thinking comes in. The idea that we can't understand the world by just looking at individual components in isolation.
It's like trying to understand a car by only looking at the tires.
Exactly. You need to see how all the parts work together, the engine, the transmission, the wheels. And in the same way, to understand the world, we need to see how the forests, the oceans, the atmosphere, and even us humans all interact and influence each other.
So instead of focusing on a single tree, we need to see the whole forest, right?
Yes. And how that forest interacts with the climate, the animals, the water cycle, everything. And just like in any complex system, if you disrupt one part, it can have a ripple effect throughout the entire network. Think of your own body. If your digestive system isn't working properly, it can impact your energy levels, your mood, even your immune system.
Yeah, it's all connected. And I think the podcast episode uses a great analogy with wolves, deer, and vegetation to illustrate this point about balance and disruption. Can you remind us of that?
Right. It's a classic example of a predator-prey relationship and how even small changes can have cascading effects.
Yeah.
You remove the wolves, the deer population explodes, they overgraze, destroy their habitat, and ultimately the whole ecosystem can collapse. It's like a giant Jenga tower. Pull out the wrong block, and the whole thing can come tumbling down.
So it makes you wonder, if wolves are like the top predators in an ecosystem, are humans the top predator for the entire planet? It feels like we're pulling out Jenga blocks left and right with deforestation, pollution, overfishing. I mean, it's kind of scary, isn't it?
Well, it's a really interesting question, and one that a lot of scientists and philosophers are grappling with right now. It boils down to this. Are we just another species trying to survive? Or do we have a unique responsibility to maintain the balance of this living system that we're a part of?
That's a huge question.
It is, and it leads us into some pretty deep territory.
Deeper than we can go right now, I think.
For sure. Maybe next time.
Yeah. But I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, it's a heavy question.
It really is.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting because your sources don't just dwell on all that heavy stuff like the doom and gloom. There's this real emphasis on nature's, resilience, like that image of the little seed pushing through the concrete.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, wow, life finds a way, right?
Absolutely. And, it's not just these like isolated examples. It's like when you see forests, regenerating after wildfires, or even the recovery of some whale populations after like centuries of whaling, It's pretty incredible.
It's like they have the secret superpower or something.
Yeah, these are signs of hope, right? Like,
Yeah.
even when things seem super dire, nature has this incredible capacity to just bounce back. It's amazing.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what can we learn from all this beyond just the like, wow, nature's awesome thing?
Yeah, I think there's some deep wisdom embedded in all these natural processes. Like one lesson is like about embracing impermanence.
Impermanence.
Yeah. We tend to crave stability and control, but nature shows us over and over that change is just like inevitable. The seasons change, landscapes evolve, even like The stars above us are in constant motion.
So instead of resisting change, we should like learn to adapt and flow with it, even when it feels uncomfortable.
Precisely. Think about like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, right?
Yeah.
It's like a radical change, but it leads to something beautiful and new. What if we could approach change in our own lives with that same, kind of curiosity and openness?
I love that. That's a really cool way to think about it.
It is, yeah.
But going back to that systems thinking idea for a sec, doesn't this constant change make it even harder to understand, like, how everything fits together?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's true that the world is incredibly complex, but there's also this underlying order, like a web of connections that ties everything together. And one of the most fundamental connections is the one between us, humans, and the natural world.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, it all comes from the earth.
We're literally made of the stuff of this planet. That's a pretty, like, humbling thought when you really think about it.
It really is. And it leads us to another, like, key lesson from nature. Interdependence.
Interdependent.
Yeah, we're not separate from this web of life. We're woven into it. Our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the whole system.
So, like, every choice we make, every little thing has a ripple effect.
Exactly. And recognizing that interconnectedness, I think it can be incredibly empowering. It means that even small changes can make a difference. Like if you choose to walk instead of drive, you're not just reducing your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
You're contributing to cleaner air, healthier ecosystems, and ultimately a more sustainable future for everyone.
Wow, it really makes those little individual actions feel much more meaningful when you see them like that, like as part of a larger web of change.
Absolutely. And that, I think, brings us to the core message of, like, the podcast episode and your other sources. The call to action. If we're truly part of this living system and our choices have such a big impact, what responsibility do we have to protect and nurture it?
Right.
What can we actually do?
Okay. Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? It's a big question, and I feel like we've gone on quite a journey.
Yeah.
From feeling kind of disconnected to like really realizing our deep interdependence with the natural world. But you're right. The big question now is, what do we do with all this?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Oh, for sure.
Like any action is just a drop in the bucket.
Right. That feeling's totally understandable. But remember what we were just talking about. Systems thinking. Individual actions, when you multiply them across millions of people,
Yeah.
it can create this ripple effect that can shift the entire system.
Yeah.
It starts with this change in perspective, and then it naturally leads to changes in behavior.
So it's not about waiting for some like grand sweeping solution from governments or corporations.
Yeah, no, it's about empowering yourself to make a difference right here, right now.
So what you're saying is it all starts with us.
In a way, yes. And it begins with education. The more we understand about these complex systems, the better equipped we are to make informed choices.
So we're talking about going beyond just reading headlines, really like diving into the research and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But what if like all that learning just leads to like more anxiety about the state of the planet?
I mean, that's a valid concern. And that's where I think the practice of gratitude can be really powerful. Instead of dwelling on the negative all the time, take some time each day to appreciate the beauty and wonder of the natural world. Even something as simple as feeling the sun on your face or listening to the birds sing can shift your perspective and remind you of what's worth fighting for.
It's like that saying, what you focus on expands, right?
Exactly.
If we only focus on the problems, they feel huge.
Yeah.
But if we focus on the beauty and like the things we're grateful for, it creates a sense of hope and possibility.
Exactly, yeah. And that sense of hope, it can be contagious. Talk to your friends and family about these ideas. Share what you're learning. Encourage them to explore these concepts too. You might be surprised by the conversations that spark and the connections you make.
It's like we're planting seeds of awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
And speaking of seeds, one of the things the podcast episode mentions is planting trees.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems so simple, but it's like a tangible way to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are so many other ways to take action too.
Yeah.
You can support organizations that are working to protect the environment, reduce your consumption and waste, choose sustainable products, advocate for change in your community. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
I know. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, all the different things that we can do.
It is, yeah.
But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from this whole deep dive is that it's not about finding the like perfect solution. It's more about finding the actions that resonate with you.
I couldn't agree more.
Hmm.
You know, we each